Well, let's use this design to discuss the way you go about applying fills and hatches to spaces that might, for the sake of argument, be rust areas in landscape design plans. Well, as it stands at the moment, the shape is taking place and consists of a number of lines. Now, if I click them and look in the properties box, there are 2 lines here. I'll add a third and a fourth. But in order to hatch or apply fills, we need a closed shape. So let's say, for the sake of argument, we'd like an arc running through here. We would change our drawing tool from line to arc, and we want a start-end radius. So we can start at the end of this line, responding to the prompts, to the end point of the arc, and there's the radius of the circle. And you can see we can bend the circle how we like, but I've chosen, unless we wanted to scoop the edge in that way, I've chosen the wrong order, so I'll hit escape there and repeat the arc, but pick that one as the start, that one as the end, and now I can bend my arc to the way I want it. And then we would use modify, match properties, and match the properties of this arc from that one. And now I hope you can see we have a closed shape for the grassed area. In order to apply a fill to it, we need to gather up all of the green lines, the various lines and the arc, right click and join them. Now when we select any part of the shape, we've got a closed polyline. We come over here, the polyline is closed, and if we want to, we can just say I'd like it filled, and it'll get filled with the color which I've set up here. So if we look in the properties box and we've selected the polyline, there's just a single entity there now that covers that grassed area, and we can set a color to it. And I've clicked here and gone to select color, gone to true color and select a color, and you can see it's a green color. Let's pick quite a dark green now, something like that one, and we could add it to custom colors and see it sits down here. And while we're at it, let's click quite a light green here, and notice that you can slide up and down in this panel and pick, and we'll add that one to the custom color set. So we've got 2 custom colors here, and we'll OK that. So now we've actually got 3 colors in this list here, the 149, the 207, and I thought we added another, but let's not worry too much about that, because what we're going to do is set 207, and we're going to come down here and say we'll fill it. And so there it be, and that was the lighter of the colors. Now you can also influence the density of color by changing transparency. Let's set that at 175 and hit enter and OK that. And select all. So we've got really very light area. Let's say now that we wanted to use, say, something like Core 10 edging around there. We could say border color is, we'll select a color, Core 10 steel color, and we'll OK that. And we don't need a transparency of 175, although that will do for the moment. And we're saying yes, it has a border, and we're going to make its line weight 0.7. So again, we hit enter and unselect all. Now we've got a grassed area and a Corten steel outline, and the important thing from my point of view is that's just one polyline. We could go even further, and we could we can make it look more grass-like by selecting it and say we're going to apply a gradient. So let's have a point gradient, and we'll have a start color. We'll pick that lighter one, and then for the end color we'll pick the darker green that we had and unselect all. So let's move that to the back. And we seem to have, we've got a border, it's filled transparency. In the process, we've lost our nice Corten steel. So I'll just change back to none and see if we get our Corten steel back again. So you've got some choices here. I like what I see here because that's quite a quick and flexible approach. So to recap, we do a shape consisting a lot of joined lines and put an arc in there. We turned it into a polyline. We set a color to the polyline. Then we applied a fill. Then we showed that you could set a gradient, but that meant that we lost the ability to, in this case, put a thick line around the edge to indicate Corten steel edging. And now we want to go on to the third option, and we're going to apply some sort of hatch to that space. There are a number of ways to apply a hatch pattern to the shape. Draw, hatch. The first thing to make sure is that you've loaded the appropriate hatch pattern file. These hatch patterns are compatible with AutoCAD, and I've got the ISO pattern loaded, and I want to put a grass pattern in. So I slide down here and choose grass for grass area, and I can set some sort of scale. I'll just have a guess here at 25, and I'm going to pick the entity, and I could pick here, which selects the polyline, and hit enter and OK it. And you can see we've got a very, very dense hatch pattern here, and my scale needs to be changed. Let's go to 100, and you can see I have now gone a little too large. Let's maybe come back to 20, and that to me looks reasonable. We've added a hatch pattern, but if I select it, it's just known as a hatch pattern entity, and if we click here, we have a hatch pattern and a closed polyline. So there are two entities there. There's another way to hatch, and that's make a different choice. Let's pick the hatch and erase it. Right click, run hatch again. We've got our pattern correct. We now know that that should be around 25. But we can choose pick a point and click in there, and GCAD Plus actually radiates out. You might just be able to see that the outline of the polyline has changed color. So I'll hit enter, and again I've got to set that scale appropriately, 25, and we'll OK. And we get essentially the same result, although there's a big advantage here, and that is that if we look over there in the property spots, it's associative hatching. That means if we change the shape of the polyline at all, then the hatching will go with us. Let's demonstrate. We'll pick the polyline, and we will pick bottom right, and I'll drag down like so. Can you see the polyline's being distorted? But can you see that it, being the polyline, takes the hatch pattern with us? So the hatch pattern lives and is associated with the polyline. Well, you may well say, why didn't the fill go with it? Well, in fact, if I select this border, that's a polyline. But there's another polyline here. The very first one we did is that one, and its properties are the color and the border color and so on. So if we wanted the new shape to follow what the first shape was, we need to apply the properties of the second one we looked at then. So let's modify and match properties, pick that one and match to this one. So what we would now want to do, of course, is send this one and that hatch to the back, and then we're no longer interested, are we, in that first one? And of course our dimensioning is no longer needed. We probably should have that on its own layer. So you can see, provided you understand what's happening, the hatch that where we used GCAD Plus tools to, let me just illustrate again. If we went draw and hatch and use this pick a point, GCAD Plus radiates out, finds a boundary and creates a brand new polyline, leaving the original one untouched. So it's very, very versatile. We've now gone back to we've gone back to a single polyline now with a hatch applied to it. So I hope you agree with me. It's a very versatile approach to hatching.